Mike Vance, everybody. I think you guys all know.
Yeah, and we reserve, Carl and I all week long have been sitting here and thinking of stories and going, oh, you gotta do this one. So Carl has I'm gonna go ahead and do the Tallahassee thing and steal from Carl. That was a great weekend. I was booked at I think a Ramada Inn across the highway from the fabulous Holiday Inn lounge that Jim and Carl were booked at.
Those were the good old days.
Yeah, and my gig was over 30 minutes earlier, so I could hook it across the highway and go hang out with these guys. And I bring this up because Jim, this was his idea, never to miss an opportunity to possibly get laid. That was the weekend that the three of us went and picketed the governor's mansion in a pro-choice rally because a couple of the waitresses from the Holiday Inn were there. And it seemed like a damn good plan at the time. We showed up there, and there was actually some sort of kid's birthday party going on the front lawn of the Florida governor's mansion. And Jim had his video camera, so he wasn't actually holding a sign, but Carl and I were. And Jim, somewhere there is video of Carl and I trying to pick up waitresses while we're holding these big pro-choice now signs, walking up and down in front of the Florida governor's mansion, and there were whisking little kids inside. Don't look, go inside. So that was also the same night, I think, after we struck out with those waitresses at the rally. We went to some bar area and we're walking up and down the street, and Jim sees just some random woman walking down the street. I think it was after closing time, if I remember, we're headed back to the hotel, and Jim goes, well, hey, where are you going? And as it turns out, back to his room. That's where she's going. So at some point during the evening, Jim had to excuse himself and go into the bathroom, spend a little quality time. But he, at that point, didn't really trust the woman entirely. So he left the door open like this much, and he's trying to look in the mirror to see what she's doing, and he can kind of see that she's digging in his luggage. And she ended up leaving, and later Jim finds out that he's missing, no apparent reason, a pair of his underwear and his cologne. So he bitches about that for the next day. And after the show the following night, I go over to the Holiday Inn, and we're all sitting there having a drink after the show's over, and this girl comes walking in. And she walks up to Jim and goes, hey, how are you? Been thinking about you all day. And Jim said that famous line, hey, nice cologne. What is that? Mine? Another one that I wanted to mention, and Jim, nobody else can claim this story because it was Jim and I got booked doing a thing in Odessa for the Junior League of Odessa. You know, it's a pretty good sign when so far every gig I've mentioned gets laughter even before I start the story. They booked us on a flight at like 7 o'clock in the morning, which, as you can imagine, is not optimal time for me or Jim. And we get up to the airport, and Jim orders a Bloody Mary as soon as we are airborne, and they bring it over. And he's just about done. There's like that much in the bottom, and he accidentally nudges the tray table, and it falls over and spills. And the flight attendant comes by, and he goes, oh, I spilled this. She goes, oh, I'll get you another with no charge. Well, at that point, you can imagine how many drinks we spilled for the rest of the night. After about we had our third or fourth free Bloody Mary. This was 1988, by the way, and across the aisle from us was Mickey Leland and his wife. This was right before the election, the Dukakis election, probably a week before that was coming up. And Mickey Leland was going up for some sort of political rally in Midland, Odessa. And we get up, we're at the very back of the plane. And we stand up to get off the airplane. And Jim's pretty toasted after 5 spilled free Bloody Marys. And he looks over and he goes, Mickey feeling. Which was a real good opening, I tell you. So Mickey just kind of looks away like this. But, you know, we're at the back of the plane. We're not going anywhere for a long damn time. Jim keeps it up. He goes, how are we going to do next Tuesday? And Mickey goes, who's we? So we make it off the airplane. At that point, Jim shut up, not another word. We get our bags, and Odessa, the Junior League had sent a limo to pick our ass up. So we stumble out, we get in the limo, And right behind us, here's Mickey Leland and his party, and they're getting in like a '67 Chevy Impala. And he's watching our drunk ass get in the back of this limo, and he's just shaking his head going, something is not right. This cannot be possible. This cannot be right. And so we watch him drive off, and Jim, once again, one of his famous lines, he looks at the limo driver, says, "I gotta pee. How far from here to the airport?" Driver goes, "It's right there, sir." So, but the last one, and this was one that Carl had never heard, and it actually proves wrong when Carl points. Jim and I were working the basement of disco in Rockford, Illinois. And it was... And now I'm off for 3 weeks, by the way, so career's really stepping up. But anyway, there's Jim's Midland, and the opening act is some magician. And we get there the first night. It was actually a funny bone gig. And we show up, and the magician, nothing personal coming, has shit spread all over the stage. And I think my opening line was, "Thank you very much. Let's get rid of some of this shit." And I start kicking it out of the way. So Jim's howling, the only one howling in the back of the room while everybody else is looking, what an asshole. So we finish up this gig, and we drank free at the disco, which is naturally where we would go hang out. But the problem was that you can have as many drinks as you want, but you have to get a ticket from the manager. And the manager will only give you 2 drink tickets at a time. So needless to say, Jim and I are pretty much following the manager around just constantly. And after about, I guess 30 minutes, I looked at the manager and said, "You know, this would be a lot faster if you just give us that." She goes, "Yeah, I think so." So she hands us this big roll of drink tickets. Now this was one of those places that had the barber chair where you sit in that and they lean you back and they pour liquor directly in your mouth. So Jim and I are using pretty much every ticket leaning back in this barber chair because there is this very well-endowed woman with tequila. I mean, what else do you, and she's like rubbing on you and pouring tequila in your mouth. We're just getting up, going to the back of the line. So we got fairly shit-faced, and okay, that's an understatement. We got very shit-faced. We go back to the hotel, and the next morning, about noon, 1 o'clock, we're calling each other, "Oh man, I feel terrible, let's go have lunch." We go down to the hotel restaurant, and we're sitting there with these 2 big glasses of iced tea, and both of us are picking up our tea going, oh, man, I must have slept wrong. I got this right there, it's just killing me. Jim goes, "That is weird, because right there, it's just killing me too." And we sat there and kept going, oh. And after about 30 minutes, it finally dawned on us, we had gotten completely shit-faced on tequila and thrown darts for 3 hours. So Jim actually did pull one up.